Hi guys, welcome back to Wolfie TV, and I must admit this was going to be a very different style of video when I was thinking about what to do for Wolves content last night. This nearly ended up a bit of a rant video about the owners, about Fosun, about the fact how they've lied to Lopetegui, etc, etc. But with having finished the season on such a really negative, and we're just seeing more and more negative coming out of the press about our financial situations, what we've got to spend, what Fosun are willing to invest, and the whole proposition that maybe we're going to have to rely on player sales before, obviously we spend anything, or basically whatever Lopetegui gets to spend, he's going to have to make from player sales. So obviously, we've heard the negative news and what that means. Lopetegui's potentially falling out with board, etc., etc. I just felt I needed to try and do something positive. So that's what I'm going to attempt to do today, guys. We're going to have a look at the players that we could potentially sell, what they could bring in, and I'm going to use the rumours that we've been linked to with Wolves with so far this summer in regards to Wolves already, and try and use those to rebuild what could be Lopetegui's team for next season without spending a single penny. So, guys, let's jump into the video. Enough without speaking about the down. Let's look into potential player sales. Now, it's not as negative as you perhaps think. I mean, I've put Neves. Let's start off with Neves. We've heard that different price tags, haven't we? We've heard 25 million. We've heard 40 million. So I've gone down in the middle. Let's just say we get 30 million from him. Barcelona get the deal done. He gets his dream transfer, and we get somewhere in the region of around 30 million. I also wonder, and it has been touted today actually, whether selling Núñez might not be an awful move. Now, it would potentially bring in around 40 million. We know teams like Liverpool are potentially looking at rebuilding the midfield. Although he didn't have a fantastic season with us, he was very much playing out of position. And you do wonder, where does he actually fit in to this Lopetegui formation? I'm still not fully convinced with him on the right-hand side. I'm still not fully convinced that the bloke even really wants to be here. I don't think he signed for us thinking that it was going to be a relegation battle, and probably all these negative news coming out. You do wonder, are we just maybe best to move him? I still think we could get a strong 40 million for him as well, at least, from potential buyers. So that would already be what? We're already 70 million in from player sales. You then look at other attractive players that we could perhaps get rid of. Max Kilman, he's been linked with Napoli. He's been linked with Tottenham. And just for the fact that he's English, that comes with an added price tag in general. I think we could get a strong 35 million for Kilman, in all honesty. And then there's other players such as Podence. We've seen Guedes apparently been told, we've already got potential loan moves being spouted for him. Please just cut our losses. If we need money, it's blatant the bloke never wanted to be here. Just get rid of him, move him on, and then we could potentially get a few other pennies from elsewhere. Hoover, who actually had a really good second half to the season, actually, for Stoke. You wonder if they might come in for him with somewhere in the region of 5 million. And then I've been quite modest towards the end. I've played it down because ultimately some of the players on screen will leave on pre-contract signings or just running out of contracts, or just players that we'll generally want to get rid of. But a very modest for Raul, Martinho, Adama, Johnny, Ryan Nori, and Connor Cody. I've just said around 10 million. We could potentially even get double that, or I think maybe at least 10 million. And that would get us within 150 million to spend this summer. And that's without considering the massive, massive wage bill that would be shifted. I've not brought Diego Costa up, for example. We know how much that he was being paid. Martinho on an absolute fortune. And then even the players higher up. I'm not saying they didn't deserve it, but we're going to be getting a hell of a wage bill off the books, which surely can only mean that we can start to then spend some of the money. So what would that leave us with, though? Let's bring that up and let's have a look what that would potentially leave us with going into next season if we just sold all those players and brought nobody at all. And where would it potentially leave us looking a bit weak? Now, one thing I do have to point out is that it's been touted that maybe even Jose Sarr might be moved on. I think we've got bigger problems to solve before doing that. I don't see him being one of the first out the door. And I think even if we did sell him, we'd probably just spend around a similar amount on a goalkeeper anyway. But you know, we look at where the weaknesses will come. You could maybe say we need definitely a bit more strength in the centre midfield position. We definitely need some more strength in defence as well. I'd probably argue that we need another centre back. We probably need another right back, whether that's to replace Semedo or whether it is just to be a second to him. So Lembiska could go out and get some valuable loan experience. I'd also look at Joe Hodge potentially as someone that we should move out on loan. Now, we then look at the front line. You'd probably say that maybe Chiquinho, he could do with a loan move. But if he comes back anything like how he did, things would be looking good. And of course, as we know, Sasha and Fabio Silva, very much unknown quantities in some regards, because Fabio's obviously coming back from a fantastic season. Sasha, on the other hand, we signed him for quite a fee, didn't we? But we've obviously not really seen any of him because he tore his ACL in the first game, which really just did then go on to sum up how the rest of the season went. So, hi guys, just a quick one from me before we get back to the video. If you are enjoying the video, please do me a massive favour. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. And now we're going to get back to the video and I'm going to try and rebuild this Wolves squad. Let's go. So let's move on and start looking at where this rebuild could come from. And the first thing I want to do is have a look at the couple of players that are currently already, with us on the book. And it's about correcting ourselves from previous mistakes for me. We've seen Morgan Gibbs-White leave. Now, yes, we did get a very nice fee for him. But having said that, we've lacked a lot of creativity this season, and you do wonder if Forest Player of the Season actually could have offered a lot to the team. Now, of course, there is other sides to that, his attitude problems, etc. But I don't really want to speak about Morgan Gibbs-White too much. What it's about is learning from our mistakes. And I'll start off with Ryan Giles. Now, as we know, Lopetegui has alluded to the fact that we might look to the lower leagues, such as the Championship, to bring in talent. Well, we've already got someone that's done very well in the lower leagues this season. He achieved 11 assists in the Championship, playing sort of as a wing back. This isn't the first time that he's had a good season in the Championship as well. He's kind of gone on a similar trajectory to what Morgan Gibbs-White did in some ways. And I think we should learn from our mistakes. I think we should keep him. And I think he could be really good competition for Bueno at that left back position. I think so. For me, I think we should keep him. I think he could do well next year. And I think he's one of them. But hopefully we can start taking some of these players from the academy and getting them into the first team, especially when we are so strict for cash. Another player that we need to mention is, of course, this man. Go back. You've just had a little bit of a clue there about who I'm going to speak out after. But Fabio Silva, let's just speak about him quickly. 16 goals, and I think 16 goals and 16 assists this season. He's done very well for two clubs across loan periods. It's been rumoured that maybe he may want to go out to loan next season to keep on building on his experience. It's also been suggested that clubs might be interested in him. Lopetegui needs to show his weight as a manager here. You know, we're led to believe he's such a top manager. And of course, we've been after him for a number of years. He should be able to convince Fabio Silva to stay, firstly. And secondly, he should be able to make this young lad who's had a really fantastic season ready for the Premier League. So for me, I think we should bring back Fabio. We should be using him next season. As we've seen, he could play as one of the main strikers. He could play as a second striker. We've even seen at PSV that he's played out on the wing. He's got that versatility, and I'm sure Lopetegui could find some space for him in the team, probably even as a starter next season. So for me, bring Fabio back and use him. Let's move on to players then that we could look to buy. The first one, no surprise, Gyökeres from Coventry City. Obviously, Coventry very unlucky not to go up in the playoffs finals, but it kind of maybe have given us a little bit of a boost for a player that we have been linked with since the January transfer window. Had a really good season in the Championship. Across his time in the Championship, he got 21 goals and 10 assists. He could become our focal point up front next season for me. As I said, Lopetegui has said he's going to look to the lower leagues to bring in some talent. Maybe if we miss out on Gyökeres, we could go for Akpom, for example, from Middlesbrough, who has also had an equally good season. I think he's going to be around the 20 to 25 million price tag, which is being mentioned. I think there's going to be a lot of interest from Premier League clubs. So although I'm led to believe he only has 1 year left on his contract, I still think Coventry are going to get a fantastic sum for him. But again, I think it would be a fantastic signing. Let's move on to speaking about this man, another young lad that we've been linked with for some time now, actually, Alex Scott from Bristol City. Again, a player that would come in, add a lot of versatility to the team. He's, such a young talent coming from the Championship. He's confident on the ball. He can be a box-to-box player. I sometimes wonder if he could actually also be used out on that right wing position as well, and kind of play a similar role to what Nunes has done this season, where, he's been out on the wing when we've been attacking, but he's dropped back when we've been defending to almost partner up as a three-man midfield. He could definitely do that role, and I think Lopetegui could use him in a lot of ways. He's a talent that's being spoke about a lot, and a talent that is definitely destined for the Premier League. I think if you wait one more season, that 20 to 25 million could go into an even higher fee. At the moment, I think we are going to have to pay this kind of fee for him. So it remains to be seen if we would, mainly just because, as we know, Alex Scott himself has said basically that he's in no rush to move. He might even debate staying at Bristol City. And I don't think Bristol City themselves are going to sell unless it is for the right price. Let's move on to speak about a defender, because I said we needed defender options. And this is a former Arsenal centre-back who's had a very good time at Stuttgart. I'm going to try and pronounce his name. It's the Greek defender, Mario Panos. I've absolutely butchered that, guys. But yeah, former Arsenal defender. He's comfortable on the ball. He can play out from the back. Apparently available for around the 20 million mark, 25 million pound mark. He would bring, obviously, a bit of experience with him. And yes, he didn't do so fantastic at Arsenal, but he did join them at quite a young age. And since then has been a very stable mid centre-back. And what I also like about him is, as I've mentioned, he's comfortable on the ball. He's comfortable playing the ball. And you do have to wonder whether that's going to be something that Lopetegui will want, because we do know how he likes to play out from the back. I think this could be a really good replacement for Kilman, especially if we can get a really good fee for Kilman, which I imagine we would. It would be a cheaper alternative, and I think that's maybe how we're going to have to look to build. And something that Fosun have basically tipped on as well. They've said that we may look to bring players more within this kind of price range than the 35, 40 millions, which we have been seeing because of the limited success that they've really had. And then I'm going to throw in this man. Sorry, guys, I'm back. I just had a mid-coughing fit, literally whilst recording it. Right, let's jump back in. This is Dodo, who is potentially going to be a right-back option that we have been linked with Fiorentina. Similar to the centre-back that I've just spoke about, comfortable on the ball, can play out, good with his feet as well. I think it would be the kind of signing that Lopetegui would be looking after, and the kind of signing that Fosun would want as well, potentially within that 15 to 20 million region. And then the last player I want to speak about is this man on screen, Habib Diarra. Now, the young prospect who is 19 years old has been linked with a number of clubs, but you do wonder whether, with our not massive range of options in that midfield position, and obviously being managed by Lopetegui as well, we could maybe have some pull and convince him, show him that we might well be able to give him the opportunity and some game time, whereas he maybe go elsewhere and really struggle to make his mark. Now, again, another midfielder who is good on the ball, confident, he can dribble. I think this is someone who would be a really good addition to the squad overall. It would be another young talent, which I think we could move a little bit more towards that, bringing in the young talent who we can get at a decent range, not like the kind of Fabio Silva price range, but someone that I think would be very good and would obviously play, obviously build on the value. What we don't want to end up in is having too many players that we've spent big on and then ended up obviously not either selling them for much at all, or have to sell, like a Godez example, at a huge loss. I think we are going to move our transfer strategy, but I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. So guys, those are the signings that I would make. If we go back and have a look what the team was beforehand, this was the team that I brought up. beforehand to talk about the kind of signings that we would need. And then if we have a look at how we would look with the additions that I spoke about, and let me just bring up this here. We will have spent around £110 million. I've gone for slightly less because we don't fully know if we'd be able to spend everything that we brought in. We also don't know whether we'd have to play slightly more for those players or look for slightly different alternatives. But I think the point of this video for me was that we've still got a lot of players that we can sell. We can bring in a good value for them. And even though it might not be these exact players that we bring in, we've definitely got a potential to rebuild the squad by just selling some of our bigger players. And I think we've got enough then to rebuild with that squad to create a squad that is very competitive. Obviously, as I speak about this, we'd have two good options up front. Hopefully, Sasha comes back with all the hype that he had when we signed him. Two big, strong players who would obviously compete. You'd have Cunha, you'd have Fabio Silva, you'd have Alex Scott, Hwang Hee-chan, Neto, Sarabia, some good forward players which would be able to compete for spaces. I think Neto will come back stronger next season. I have a feeling Sarabia will do the same. And I think Cunha, who's done quite well already, I think he will continue to build within this Lopetegui team, especially when these guys that I've mentioned have got a target man and someone they can aim for up front as well. We then obviously move down into like the midfield position. Lamina and João Gomez already, I think, are two very good players that are just set to be our starting midfielders for next season. But let's not forget, we can bring in Diarra. With that new signing that I spoke about, we've got Traore that we can use as well. Two lads who would be young lads, hungry, and I think would give good competition for these guys. You'd then move on into the defensive area. You'd have Giles and Bueno competing for that left back position. You'd have Dawson. I'm not even going to try and pronounce his name again after I absolutely ruined it last time. But the Greek defender that I spoke about, you'd have Nathan Collins, who I think would get better next year. And I think naturally he will become the Dawson replacement. You've also got Totti Gomez, who can play obviously centre-back or left-back. And then you've got Dodo and Nelson Semedo battling for that right-back position. And maybe we could also see a new keeper. So as I say, guys, the whole point of this video is not to say this is the players that we're going to be signing for sure. It was more just to provide that things have seemed so negative, and for good reason. No one really likes to hear that we're going to have to sell to buy. But having said that, if that is the way we're going to have to go, maybe it's not quite so bad as things seem. But guys, if you have enjoyed the video, as always, let me know your thoughts. Hit that like button. Please do subscribe to the channel, and we'll be keeping you up to date with all the latest Wolves transfer rumours, etc. throughout the summer. So yeah, hit that subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Goodbye.